Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be starting a new series called The Breakdown, where, like the title says, I go in and I break down popular styles of different producers or rappers. Just go in depth to show like the theory and the process behind all of it. Today I'm going to be showing how to make beats from scratch like Chi Chi or Section 8 for somebody like Lil Baby. In this video I used an analog lab bank and a one-shot kit from a pack that I just dropped with two called Nebula. The pack is available as a bundle, so it has the analog lab bank, the one-shot kit, and the sample pack that you can get all together, or they're all available separately. Like I said in this video, I use the analog lab bank and the one-shot kit, so I'll go ahead and leave a link down in the description for that if you're interested. And for all the drums in this video, I use my slat drum kit, so I'll go ahead and leave a link down in the description for that as well. But yeah, I'm really excited for this new series where I can really go in depth and show like the process and the theory behind different styles. So go ahead and let me know in the comments of what I should do next. Don't forget to subscribe, and let's get right into it. All right, so I got the melody pulled up here. I'll go ahead and play it so you can hear how the final thing sounds. Sitting at 150 BPM, and the final sample's in G minor. As you can see, I pitched it up 2 semitones at the very end. But yeah, I tried to make this melody a little bit more unique. I know there's tons of tutorials on the typical 4PF Lil Baby style with like the triplet pianos. Really didn't want to make another like basic tutorial on that, so like I said, try to make this a little bit more unique. I'll go ahead and play it and then break everything down. Alright, so the first thing that I did is I came up with this pattern right here, and I brought up this piano from Contact from Noir Pure with the scoring preset. Like I said, the final sample's in G minor, but for this piano right now we're in D sharp, and I messed with the pitch later on. There's a few things here that are kind of basic. The MIDI is not bad, but it kind of has that basic Lil Baby 4PF kind of feel, and there's a few reasons for that, but I'm gonna go ahead and play it and then explain everything I did to it to make it a little bit more unique. Yeah, not a bad MIDI, but there's a few things that make it kind of basic, like this root note right here. Like I said, we're at D sharp, so I started with the root note at D sharp. Something that's really common with Lil Baby melodies is that they drop the root note at the very end, or at least halfway through. So as you can see, I took the root note and I dropped it down 4 semitones, and then I moved it back up 2 semitones, and at the end it goes up. So that's very common. Sometimes it'll go down 4 and then down 5 like that. And then another thing that makes this melody kind of basic is the repetitive chord right here. I just started with this basic D sharp minor chord, and then I pitched the middle note up an octave, and I just copied that over 4 times and then copied it over again for this half. But then for the second half I just dropped the top note down 1 semitone, and then I added these filler notes right here, and then I added the root note down here, and then I basically just came up with this triplet pattern up top. That's another thing that's kind of basic for Lil Baby style melodies, is having triplet notes. Came up with this pattern up top right here, and then at the very end added another triplet pattern that's like a really high top line melody. And then what I did once I had that MIDI is I added some effects. So I added a lot of reverb. I added Portal, which kind of added some like background like reverse sounding thing. Soothe 2, which is not loading, but it basically takes out some of the harsh frequencies in the low mids, and then an EQ to take out the very low end. Alright, so once I had that, I brought it in, and as you can see, I chopped it up. And what I did, because I knew I wanted to reverse it, as you can see, is I took the very end and I just brought it to the beginning, and then I did that for all of them. So basically reversed it, pitched it up 2 semitones, and then I put it to its own mixer track, and I added this halftime. As you can see throughout the melody, it has a certain part with halftime and a certain part with it, and then I added this preset and effect rack, and then an EQ to take out some of the low mids and boost some of the high mids. And so this is what that sounds like with all the effects on it, and this is what I think really made the melody more unique and not just a basic 4PF melody. So it still sounds like something Lil Baby would use, and it still has like components of a typical 4PF melody, but a little bit more unique. It's reverse. It has some cool effects. All right, so for this next sound, I forgot the exact Analog Lab preset that I used. I think I ended up changing it and then forgot to save which one it was, but it was one of the factory preset settings, and it was a ambient pad. And basically all I did is I took the same exact pattern, and because I pitched it up 2 semitones before, I took the MIDI and I pitched it up. So I went from D sharp to F, and then what I did is I took that same MIDI and I just dragged it into the pad, and then I added halftime, and so it sounds like this. Yeah, really ambient. And what I did is I halftime that. I put an EQ on it to take out the low and the low mid. I added sketch cassette to make it more like have more of a vinyl sound, and then I added Valhalla Ubermod to add some chorus and delay. The next thing that I did is I added this key from the Nebula Analog Lab bank that I was talking about in the intro. I just dropped this bank. I'll leave a link down in the description for it if you're interested, but basically I took this key from the bank and I came up with this little top line pattern right here. Like I said, we were in F minor, and I just came up with this really simple like triplet top line. There's really no like theory behind it. When I was listening to the reverse piano in the pad, it sounded like it needed some movement, so I wanted to add a really high top line to it, and this just sounded good, and I kind of went with my ear with what sounded good. And like I said, something really popular with 4PF is to have the triplet pattern going, so. And then what I did is I just copied that over, and then I added some variation at the end with this note, pitched it down. And then for the effects, I have this wow control to add some wow and some flutter. And then I have an EQ to take out a lot of the lows and a lot of the highs. And then as you can see right here, I have the sound rendered out as an audio file because Analog Lab was like destroying my computer. I have different parts where that same melody is playing with halftime and without. So right here you can hear, and then right here it's not. Alright, so another thing that's really common with 4PF or Lil Baby melodies is to have like a string, something really cinematic. So I pulled up this string from Analog Lab. I think it's a factory preset, this Art Decayed string. Yeah, I started with the root note at F, and then I pulled this note that's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 semitones up, copied that over, and then I dropped the root note down from F, D sharp, and then down to C sharp, C, and then all the way down to A sharp, and then kind of basically just built these really simple 2-note chords. And then for the second half, I changed it up where I kept the root note at F, but then I pitched this up an octave, so it's at F again, but just an octave up. And I basically did the same thing where I just went by ear and played with different notes that sounded good and dropped the root note. This is what that sounds like. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the string. And then for the effects, I added an EQ and Valhalla Supermassive, nothing crazy. Next thing I added was an accent from the Nebula bank. So it's an accent called Lost in Space. I think it's an ARP, but this is what it sounds like just by itself. And then as you can see, I just copied that over. And then for effects, I just added a lot of reverb and then shaper box to pan it back and forth. Next thing I did is I added this texture from the Nebula one-shot kit, just sounds like this. It's a lot of vinyl noise in the background. And then the last thing that I did is I added a sub bass. So I just followed the root note of the sample. I just copied it over from the piano, and I used a one-shot, the Nebula one-shot kit, and it just sounds like this by itself. Once I had all the sounds, I just structured it how I wanted to, and I added some variation throughout the sample. As you can see, there's different parts where different sounds are either half-timed or there's sounds going in and out. So what I did is I added a lot of variation, and then I copied it over. So I have the first part with the bass and the second part without the bass. And then as usual, just added the stems at the end. So whoever uses the sample, they can either use the stems or they can chop up the sample how I have it. Once I had it structured, I just rendered it out as an audio file, brought it back in with everything. And then I made sure that the sub bass was fitting the root note. So as you can see, I pitched it up from F minor to G minor, and then I did the same thing with the sub bass. Then I put it to its own mixer track, and I added virtual tape machine to make it sound more vinyl, some fresh air to boost the high end, some good hertz mid side to again kind of make the high end sound a little bit better, and then Soothe 2, again it's not showing, but to take out some of the harsh frequencies, and then an EQ to take out the very low end to leave room for the bass. Alright, so once the melody was done, I brought it in here and I added some drums to it. As you can see, like I said, all the drums are from my Slat drum kit. So as you can see, it has a go-to drums folder and then a folder with more unique drums. So the first thing that I added is a clap. So I picked out this clap from my drum kit. It sounds like that, and then I layered it with this snare right here. Together it sounds like this. Alright, so the next thing that I did is I added this hi-hat right here, just this basic hi-hat. And as you can see, the hi-hats are in 1/3 timing, and that's something that Section 8 and Chi Chi are kind of notorious for exaggerating. And I just came up with this pattern right here. Really bouncy, and then I have these notes going down like this with every other note pitched down in velocity. And then I copied that over, and then instead of having this same thing going, I switched it up with a different roll. And then once I had that, I just copied it over, and then I changed the very end to go along with the 808. You'll see once I show that, but this is what it sounds like. And then what I did is I have some of the rolls panning back and forth from left to right. And then for effects on the hi-hat, I added some distortion, took down the lows and boosted the high a little bit. Next thing that I did is I added an 808. I just grabbed this basic spins 808. And what I did is I made sure that the hold was all the way up. I turned all these other knobs all the way down, turned the out knob up, turned the boost up, turned the volume up. Other than that, just make sure it's cutting itself. Came up with this pattern right here. Like I said, we're in D minor, and I just followed the root note all the way to the end. At the very end, this is kind of like something that Section 8 and Chi Chi do a lot, is at the very end, they'll kind of go crazy with the 808s. And this is what I was talking about with the hi-hats, how the hi-hats kind of go with it. Yeah, just have that at the end. Other than that, it's just following the root note. And you want to make sure that your 808 is peaking above 0 dB and it's clipping. That's what kind of gives it the crunch sound and makes it hit really hard. Alright, so the next thing that I did is I just added this accent snare right here. I have the first one that's layered with the clap, and then I have this one to kind of add some more bounce. And then I copied that over, and then at the end again, to go along with the 808 and the hi-hat, I just have the snare kind of go crazy at the end. Next thing I did is I added this quick open hat. Sounds like that, and then I have it repeating throughout the entire beat, and I just have it panned back and forth from left to right. It just sounds like this. Alright, so once I had the drum pattern, I just structured it out how I wanted to. So I have this first part right here as an intro, and so it has the part of the sample that has the bass that I put in there. And as you can see, I added this automation clip down here. So basically what I did is I went to the melody and I added this Fruity Love filter, went here, create automation clip, and then I have it so that it kind of fades in and it sounds like this. Yeah, it's just kind of a cool intro effect, and it kind of fades in. And then once I had that intro, I had the drums come in, and this is for the hook. And then the drums, everything but the 808 goes out, and then I bring the drums back in for the verse. Then I have another hook right here, then another verse, then another hook, and then an outro. Once I had it structured out, I just made sure I had my tag in there, and then I went to the master, just put a soft clipper, turned the post up a little bit and the threshold down a little bit. And what that does is it just makes it sound a lot more louder and really pushes that clipping sound. So that's pretty much it for the beat. Just trying to keep the melody a little bit more unique, but still have elements from that typical 4PF or Lil Baby style. So I still have that triplet flow and the root note kind of going down the same way. And the same thing for the drums, just have really bouncy drums, everything go crazy at the end. And that's how I approach making a beat like Section 8 or Chi Chi for Lil Baby. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you took something away. Like I said, I'll leave a link down in the description for the bundle and the drum kit. Leave a comment, let me know what I should break down next. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.